Hey guys, Katie here, and today's video is ways to organize your embellishments as part of the organizational tipped craft tour collab that I am doing with my creative design team besties.
Hello, creatives. It is me again, and as part of this month's collab with the creative design team, I'm going to be walking you through my organization of my embellishments. If you remember my video from last year, I have a craft room that's kind of just like a collection of old and new things that when I look at, I remember either my grandparents or my parents, my siblings, just memories all around me, which is what scrapbooking should be, correct? And I haven't really changed much as far as that. If also you recall, we are trying to kind of redo my craft room. It's got a very low ceiling. It's an add-on. We have a leak in the ceiling when it rains. Luckily, we've learned not to put paper there. So that is kind of had a band-aid on it, so to speak. But I definitely redid my embellishments for a couple of reasons. Number one, I loved the way they were. But as Close to My Heart was closing, I purchased a lot of their photo storage organization. Now, if you remember last time that I did a craft room tour, I spoke on that because I actually did a review of several brands. And if you remember, I loved the Close to My Heart ones. The snap on the containers just stayed closed a whole lot more, I guess you would say. And so I had a lot of those from Close to My Heart's closing because I had a lot of performance points or reward dollars that I needed to use. So I went ahead and I purchased several of those, and they've just kind of been sitting in the corner of my craft room as a lot of my Close to My Heart stuff. You know, it's one of those things that I've kind of battled with. I've heard that other makers have kind of battled with. You don't want to let it go. It's a big portion of your life and you loved it and you still love some of it. So it's just been sitting in boxes. And I finally said, you know what? This video collab is a perfect opportunity to go ahead and put those to work. Now, I did save some of those. Some of those are going to be used for my photos, and I discussed that in that video as well. And I love to label those. You'll see here when I do process videos for layouts that I often pull those, and you can see that they're labeled much in the same way that I label these embellishments in this video. So enough talking. I just kind of wanted to preface that what this video is about. I hope you'll stick around. Even though if you're happy with your embellishment storage, I hope you'll stick around and just kind of see what I do. At the end of this video, I'm actually going to put my embellishment storage to use. I'm going to show you how I use it in real life creating when I finish off one of my scrapbook layouts. So let's get started on this craft room tour of organization of my embellishments.
To start the process of organizing my embellishments, I did pull out the containers that I had already labeled. And I am trying to sort those not only alphabetically, but I'm also pulling out any of the Close to My Heart collections. I decided that it probably is going to be best to store those separately. And that way, when I'm working with that Close to My Heart collection and my personal scrapbooking, I can just pull that container that's labeled with all of those and then pull it out. And again, you'll see that later in this video when I use this process in real life creating. The other thing that I'm doing is alphabetizing. So you can see here that I have them already labeled. I did pull out that dinosaur one for the Close to My Heart collection. And then I am pulling out some of the ones that I have already kind of taken, like this camera one. I've already sorted out some of those embellishments, and I have cameras. So when I pulled out this one, I noticed that it wasn't only cameras in here, which could be a problem, not always. When you have basic shapes like stars, you can put those in your cameras or your alphabet bets or something like that. And that way it kind of prompts you to remember that it's not all about the camera. Oh, look, here's some stars. Let me go ahead and put that, let's say that you are scrapbooking a photo of your significant other. Here's a cute photo of us. Oh, stars in my eyes every time I see him, so on and so forth. I know that's a little corny, but I hope you are understanding what I am getting at. So I've put those acrylic cameras in there and, of course, pulled out the stars. For this one, I had labeled as rainbow. Now, you can also see that there are some bright colored bows. Well, when sorting out my other containers of embellishments, I actually came up with quite a few bows. And so that's why I am kind of picking out the bows. I did find these little banners, so I'm going to put that aside. And then I had these acrylic rainbows from one of the Close to My Heart collections. So, of course, I'm going to add that to that container that's already labeled rainbows. And then I can just add the bows and the banners somewhere else when that comes into play. You'll see me putting it back here, but I do end up taking those out and putting those with that. But again, even though it says rainbow, think of rainbow colors, not actually rainbow, the shape or the picture that you have in your mind. This one was a little bit hard for me. It had a whole lot of stuff, so like everything else in my life, and especially, when I'm scrapbooking, if I'm really not ready to deal with that, I just put it back in there, and that's gonna have to stay that way until another day. I did have some ampersand symbols, so I've decided to put those in here, and I'm going to put those back in, and then we will start alphabetizing. Now, I use my label maker. I've used this on numerous videos. I use this in our CDT Creative membership a lot. It is just so easy to label what I need to label. You'll find a link below if you don't have a label maker or if you're in the market for a new one. Absolutely love this one. I'm trimming this one down, and then I also wanted to tell you that it's split. The backing on the back of this is split into two. It makes it really easy for you to pull away that backing and label it, especially, if you don't have nails or if you have nails that kind of inhibit you from doing that. But I wanted to give you a tip. Only pull away the top portion of that, and that's gonna make it really easy. I had to do a lot of unlabeling, so to speak, and because I only had those adhered on one side, it was really easy to remove that label and relabel it. So this one is an empty container, and I'm taking all of those empty containers out. And then here is where I will start to alphabetize the non close to my heart ones. So we are going to start with the A's, and then it's just going to go on. Now, here I'm going to actually start with the second, but I'll come back and I will put that first one in there. And then also, as you are going along, I didn't really, alphabetize them off camera. So you'll see me here in just a second. I kinda had to redo them, but it's simple to do that. You'll just, take one out, put one in, so on and so forth. I'm pulling from another one the alphabet that I think will fit in here, and then here's where I'm realizing, well, let me kind of move these along because I've gotta fit some things in here. I also decided to pull out the bead containers that I use and also migrate these shapes and elements into my storage. Now, I love the bead containers. If you recall, they are adjustable. So they allow for the bigger sections and then also some of the longer titles because the majority of these bead containers actually contained close to my heart specific product lines. But I'm just going to migrate these shapes into these little things that I've already created and labeled, and then I will get those alphabetized. Another thing that I decided to migrate was my big bin of dots and sequins. If you recall from my prior video, I actually like to store these by color because that's just how my brain works. If your brain works in a different way, I encourage you to store your embellishments, your paper, your ink, whatever you are organizing in a way that makes it make sense to you. Because we all love to create, but we don't have all the time in the world. So the more it makes sense to you, the easier it is for you to grab. Now, I am using my label maker. I am going to label these. Now, some of these are close to my heart's colors of the year. So melon, wildberry, and journey. But for the other part, I am just red, yellow, green, blue. That is that. As long as it fits in one of those categories, that is what I'm doing. I actually like digging through this because I found some extra packets that are extra to me. So I'm going to include those in little goodie boxes when I do my close to my heart product sale here in just a little bit. And then also I found some really old embellishments back when we had color family sparkles. And so I was able to cut those apart and add these to these little bins. Here is a look at how those big bins are labeled. So A through C, as well as embellishments for my dots, and then my close to my heart labels for those collections. Now let's pull out this layout that definitely needs some embellishments. So I have pulled out the A through C, and I am looking for black and white. I'm looking for cameras. I'm also looking for arrows, and then I'm pulling out the banners and the brackets. Now I am going to also pull out one of the Close to My Heart collections, but that will be here in just a second. I am going to start with the black and white because you can see that there is a lot of black and white in the DSP that I used. So I've pulled out some black and white bows. Again, like I was saying before, the bows don't necessarily have to go in the bow bin. These are black and white. So my brain works in color. So I've put them in the black and white. So I'm just going to look at some other bow options as well as some of these little pieces. And then I end up putting all of this back and then seeing another packet of bows that I'm actually going to use instead. So I'm going to keep these bows out and then put the other bows back and then get that closed up. And then I'm going to start looking at the cameras. Now, the reason I wanted a camera, number one, is because it's a picture of me and Victor from Young and the Restless. Hello. But I also just thought that a camera over this little spot right here would be cute. So I've played with the red, I've played with the pink. Both of those colors are in that DSP. And then I ended up pulling out other cameras to see how those are going to work. I am also looking at this little banner and I'm thinking that that is going to be an excellent little way to let the person who's looking at my scrapbook know that that's a flip flap. And so if you pull up on that flip flap, you are going to see additional photos. And then I end up going with the little watercolor camera that I've pulled out, and it's going to go on the flip flap. I'm also looking for arrows, again, just to kind of add some embellishments. I want to kind of draw your attention not only to the journaling, but to some of the additional photos. So I've pulled out some red ones and some black ones, and I'll decide on that off camera. So now I'm going to pull from the embellishment bin. This is for the dots and the sequins, and I'm looking at the black, and then I'm also looking at red. I'm loving the pop of that acrylic camera that's red. It really goes well with all the black and the white and then the DSP. So I'm going to embellish this off camera, all the little embellishments, but then I'm going to pull out from the Close to My Heart collections, and I've pulled out Dream Maker because I remember that Dream Maker, not only does it have the black paper board, but it also had some little word strips. So I've pulled out 3 of those that I think will go well with this layout, and I'm going to back those word strips with some scratch DSP. So I'm just going to cut those apart, and that's going to make it where these little word strips really pop. Now, one thing I loved about this sketch that I used for this layout was just the top bar, the bottom bars, just kind of the streamlined left to right. But by adding embellishments in the form of these word strips and then the arrows and the dots that span over that black and that white, it just makes it pop just a little bit more. I think you'll agree if you kind of look at what the layout looked previously. Now, as far as putting back everything, because these are labeled, it is really easy to clean up. I am just going to replace all the embellishments that I used, as well as the Close to My Heart collections, and then all the alphabetized little icons. And then they will go back into my storage, ready for use next time. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching my organization tips for your embellishments. You can click the CDT playlist and see what the other creative design team members have shared with you, as well as check out that recommended video. Don't forget that if you would like to purchase any of the items that I used, you can click the links down below to purchase those with my affiliate links. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching. I hope y'all have a wonderful rest of your weekend.